It was a slow Thursday evening at Miller's Diner, the kind of roadside place that smelled like burnt coffee and dreams that never quite made it out of small towns. Emily Carter, 28, single mother of a 6-year-old named Lily, was wiping down table 4 when she noticed a man in a charcoal suit sitting in the corner booth. The kind of man who didn't belong in a place like this. His wristwatch probably cost more than the diner's monthly rent, yet he sat there quietly, staring at his phone as if the world outside didn't exist. Emily had learned to read people. That was part of her survival. The lonely truckers, the angry couples, the teenagers pretending to be adults. She saw them all, every night, while working double shifts just to pay Lily's school fees. But this man was different. He looked lost. His eyes were the color of storms, gray and unsettled, and the suit couldn't hide the exhaustion that clung to him like dust. She walked over with a polite smile, balancing her notepad. "Coffee?" she asked, trying to sound cheerful despite the ache in her feet. He looked up, surprised, as if someone had pulled him out of a thought. "Sure. Black." His voice was deep, calm, almost too composed. She nodded and poured him a cup, noticing how his fingers trembled slightly as he reached for it. He didn't eat, just sat there, scrolling, frowning. When the bill came, $37.60, he reached into his coat and froze. His face shifted from calm to shock. I must have left my wallet in the car," he said softly, more embarrassed than panicked. Emily hesitated. People lied about that all the time. But something about him, the sincerity in his voice, the quiet desperation in his eyes, made her believe him. "It's okay," she said quickly, before he could explain further. "Don't worry about it. Happens all the time." She grabbed the bill and walked away before he could argue. She paid it herself, sliding a few crumpled bills from her apron pocket, the last cash she had before payday. The man, whose name she didn't even know, left after thanking her awkwardly, promising he'd come back to repay her. Most people never did. Emily didn't think about it again. She had to pick up Lily from her neighbor S apartment and make dinner out of whatever was left in the fridge. Life was a cycle of exhaustion and survival, and a free meal for a stranger wasn't the strangest thing she'd done to stay human. But 2 days later, a black car stopped outside the diner. Everyone stared. From it stepped the same man, now in a navy suit, holding a small bouquet of daisies. He walked straight to Emily, who stood frozen with a tray of pancakes in her hand. "You paid my bill," he said simply, his voice softer this time. "And I didn't even thank you properly." Weeks passed. Life went on. But one night, after her babysitter canceled and Lily fell sick with a fever, Emily's old car refused to start. Desperate, she scrolled through her contacts and stopped at Rhodes. Her pride fought it, but her child's wheezing cries broke her resistance. She called. Within 20 minutes, a black SUV pulled up outside her apartment, and Ethan himself stepped out. No driver, no assistant. He took Lily to the hospital, paid for everything, and waited with Emily until dawn. He never said a word about money or favors, just sat beside her, quietly holding a paper cup of bad coffee. That night changed something. Slowly, unexpectedly, Ethan started showing up. Sometimes he brought groceries, sometimes flowers for Lily, sometimes just himself, claiming he happened to be in the neighborhood. He wasn't used to warmth. His world was boardrooms, betrayal, and contracts. Hers was bills, exhaustion, and bedtime stories. Yet somewhere between those two worlds, a fragile connection bloomed. But life wasn't a fairy tale. One evening, a tabloid photo went viral. Ethan Rhodes seen with mystery waitress. Reporters camped outside her apartment. Customers whispered behind her back. The diner's owner asked her to take a break until things settled. Ethan tried to protect her, offering her a job at his company, but she refused. She didn't want pity or charity. He respected that, but it broke his heart. Then came the twist no one saw coming. A woman showed up at the diner, tall, elegant, with diamond rings that glittered like spite. "Stay away from him," she hissed. "Ethan's my fiancé." Emily froze. The woman, Rebecca Langford, daughter of a senator, left a business card and a warning. That night, Ethan showed up again, drenched in rain, desperate to explain. "It's not what you think," he said. "Rebecca's a political engagement, arranged years ago. I never loved her. I never even wanted this life." Emily wanted to believe him, but her heart couldn't. "You're a billionaire, Ethan. I'm just a waitress with a kid. Our worlds don't mix." She closed the door, tears blurring her vision. For weeks, silence. The diner reopened, life stumbled forward. But one morning, Lily ran into her arms holding a letter. "Mommy, it's from Mr. Ethan." Inside was a check for exactly $37.60 and a note that read, "You paid for my meal once. I just wanted to pay you back. For everything else, I never can." Emily's heart shattered. She realized she missed him, not for his money, but for how he made her feel seen. That evening, as she walked home, she saw flashing lights ahead. A car accident near the bridge. Her stomach twisted when she recognized the black SUV, twisted metal and shattered glass. Ethan was inside, unconscious, a crowd gathering. Without thinking, she ran through the chaos, screaming his name, tears mixing with rain. Paramedics pulled her back, but not before she saw his hand twitch, barely alive. "He'll make it," one of them said, but Emily wasn't sure she believed it. As the ambulance sped away, she stood in the downpour clutching Lily's hand, praying to a God she hadn't spoken to in years. That night, the phone rang. "Ma'am, this is Mercy General Hospital," the voice said gently. "Mr. Rhodes listed you as his emergency contact." Emily dropped the phone, shaking. She'd been his contact? Why her? Out of everyone? She didn't have the courage to ask. When she reached the hospital, Ethan was barely conscious, tubes and monitors everywhere. He smiled faintly when he saw her. "Guess I still owe you dinner," he whispered weakly. Emily laughed through tears, gripping his hand. "Just don't make me pay for it this time," she said. But what neither of them knew was that Ethan's accident hadn't been an accident at all. Someone had tampered with his brakes, and the person who did it was closer to him than he realized. When Ethan woke up 3 days later, his world was blurred by the sharp scent of antiseptic and the soft beeping of monitors. Emily was asleep beside him, her head resting on the hospital bed, her hand still holding his. For a moment, he thought it was a dream. This fragile, ordinary girl sitting by his side when the rest of the world had only ever been there for his money. But when her fingers twitched and she looked up, eyes red and tired, he realized it wasn't a dream. She'd been there every single night. "You scared me," she whispered, voice trembling. "I thought I lost you." Ethan tried to smile, but pain shot through his ribs. "You can't get rid of me that easily," he joked weakly, though behind that grin was a storm. Because he remembered, the brakes hadn't failed by chance. His security team had already confirmed it. Sabotage. And the only person with access to his car that morning was someone from his own circle. He didn't tell Emily, not yet. She'd been through enough. For the next few weeks, she helped him recover, reading to him, feeding him, even bringing Lily to brighten his days. The billionaire who once ruled boardrooms was now a man learning to laugh again because a 6-year-old girl insisted on teaching him how to draw cats with crayons. He'd never felt more alive. But shadows were gathering outside that hospital room. Rebecca Langford wasn't the type to lose gracefully. When the news broke that Ethan's car crash was under investigation, she panicked because she knew the truth. Her father's company had been on the verge of financial ruin, and their merger with Ethan's corporation was supposed to save it. But when Ethan refused to go through with the arranged marriage, her father had given her one order: make him come back, or make sure no one else gets him. Rebecca hadn't wanted it to go this far, but the man she'd hired to scare Ethan had tampered too much. Now, with the police circling, she decided there was only one way to fix things: eliminate the problem quietly. That problem was Emily Carter. One rainy evening, as Emily was leaving the hospital, a man in a leather jacket followed her. She didn't notice at first, her mind lost in thoughts about Ethan's recovery and the way he'd held her hand that morning, telling her he wanted to see her smile every day. She didn't even see the black car parked across the street. But she felt it, that prickle on her neck that told her something wasn't right. When she turned the corner, the man grabbed her arm. "Stay away from Ethan Rhodes," he growled, his grip tight. She struggled, but before he could drag her toward the car, a voice shouted, "Hey!" It was Officer Ryan Blake, a local cop and regular diner customer. He pulled his gun, and the man fled into the rain. Emily was shaking, heart pounding but alive. That night, Ethan's security team finally stepped in. Cameras were installed outside her apartment, and a car was assigned to follow her to work. Ethan tried to apologize, guilt heavy on his face. "You didn't sign up for this," he said quietly. Emily shook her head. "No one signs up for love either. It just happens." That line broke him, because he realized, right there in that sterile hospital room, that he loved her. Not the idea of her, not the story of kindness that started with a $37 bill, but her, the woman who saw him when no one else did. But before he could tell her properly, another twist hit. His company, Rhodes Technologies, was suddenly under federal investigation. Millions were missing from an offshore account, money transferred in his name. Overnight, the media turned. Headlines screamed, "Ethan Rhodes caught in corporate fraud scandal." His board of directors suspended him pending inquiry. The world that once praised him now tore him apart. The only person who stood by him was Emily. She refused to believe he'd done it. "Someone's framing you," she insisted, gripping his hand. "We'll prove it." He smiled faintly. "You still say we, even when the world says me." What neither of them knew was that the person behind the scandal, the one leaking files, planting fake transactions, was Rebecca herself. She wasn't just jealous. She wanted revenge. She'd used her father's contacts to make Ethan look like a criminal. And when she heard Emily was still in his life, she decided to end it once and for all. 2 nights later, Ethan received an anonymous call. A man's voice said, "If you want proof of who's framing you, come to Pier 47 tonight. Alone." He didn't tell Emily. He didn't want her in danger. But Emily, sensing something wrong when he didn't answer her texts, followed him anyway. At the pier, under the dim glow of streetlights, Ethan saw a figure in a black coat holding a phone. "You wanted the truth," the man sneered, tossing a flash drive toward him. "There's your proof." But before Ethan could pick it up, headlights flared. A black SUV screeched toward them. The man fled. Ethan dove aside, barely avoiding the impact. Emily, running from the shadows, screamed his name as the car swerved and hit the railing. For a second, everything was chaos. Wind, rain, screeching metal. When the car stopped, Smoke rising, Emily ran to it. Rebecca was inside, bleeding, her diamond ring catching the light as she clutched the steering wheel. "I just wanted to scare you," she whispered weakly as sirens approached. "Not like this." She died before help arrived, leaving behind a confession recorded on her phone. A voice memo admitting to the brake sabotage, the threats, and the embezzlement setup. The flash drive, recovered later, contained everything: bank records, emails, proof of Rebecca's plan. Ethan was cleared of all charges within weeks. But he wasn't celebrating. He spent those weeks at Emily's apartment, healing, trying to piece back his life. One night, as Lily slept, he turned to Emily and said quietly, "When I was a kid, my mother worked 2 jobs. I always promised myself I'd never love anyone who struggled like she did, because I couldn't withstand watching it again. Then you walked in, and you ruined that promise." Emily laughed softly, eyes glistening. "Guess I'm good at ruining rich men's rules." They kissed, a simple, gentle kiss, born not from drama or desperation, but from understanding. Months later, life looked different. Ethan sold his company, tired of power games and public lies. He bought a quiet cafe near the ocean and renamed it Lily's Place. Emily ran it, wearing her same waitress uniform, though now she owned the building. Customers loved her, the humble woman with the billionaire boyfriend who never bragged. And Ethan? He finally learned that peace wasn't tea in stock prices or headlines. It was in Sunday mornings when Emily hummed while making pancakes. Lily drew on the counter, and sunlight spilled through the windows. But the story didn't end there. One afternoon, a stranger walked into the cafe, a young man in a gray hoodie, nervous, carrying a small box. "You don't know me," he said softly to Emily, "but I used to work for Rebecca's father. I found this while cleaning his office." Inside the box was a sealed envelope addressed to Ethan Rhodes, confidential. Inside it, a single sheet. "If anything happens to Rebecca, the truth will follow." Attached was a USB drive. Ethan hesitated to open it, but Emily urged him. The drive contained shocking evidence. Rebecca's father had been laundering money through Rhodes Technologies without Ethan's knowledge. The scandal wasn't over. It was only buried. If this ever went public, it would destroy countless lives, including innocent employees. Ethan had 2 choices: expose the truth and watch thousands lose their jobs, or destroy the evidence and live knowing corruption continued. For days, he wrestled with it. Finally, one evening, as rain tapped the windows of Lily's Place, he said to Emily, "Sometimes justice means letting go of revenge." He destroyed the drive, deciding to protect the people instead of punishing the dead. Emily placed her hand over his. "That's why I love you," she said. "You could have been ruthless. You chose kindness." Years later, when people asked how a billionaire fell in love with a waitress, Ethan always smiled and said, "She paid my bill when I couldn't pay my own soul's debt." And Emily would laugh, wiping flour from her apron, replying, "I just wanted to help a stranger. I didn't know I was paying for my future." But every year on that same Thursday evening, Ethan would leave $37.60 on the counter, the price of the meal that started it all, as a reminder that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can rewrite the biggest destinies. And somewhere, in the echoes of that diner where it all began, their story lived on. Proof that love doesn't always start with a perfect life, but with a simple choice to care when no one else does.